Welcome back, everybody. Well, here we are. We're getting this done piece by piece. And this is kind of a big thing right now because we have to fit the front end. And seeing how we fit I thought the rear quarters and the rockers were going to be the worst. No, I think this is going to be the worst. Because we've already fitted, the rockers, the doors, the rear quarters, all that stuff. That's all pretty much in its final resting place. Well, we got to put a final resting place in for the front bodywork. And I'm not sure how long it's going to take. Looking at it, it's not so much the big things. Big things are easy usually to correct. It's the small things that you have to adjust to make them work and make it look right. Because I think making it look right is going to make or break this project. So, other than that, hey, let's get right on to it. I'm going to finish up my coffee, then we're going to go right over, and we're going to start here at the bonnet hood, whatever you want to call it, and work our way out. I racked my brain, I figured that's the only way to do it. So, here, take a look at this. We're starting in the middle of the hood, bonnet, whatever. And what we need to do is, you can see there's a rise right here that's above this cowling piece that has the lower windshield valence, if you want to call it that have enclose the wipers and the motor underneath. What we want this to do is we want it to sit flat like that, so it makes it look like it's a factory item, And what does it do? It comes down. No, it's not bad. It's like probably 1 or 2 millimeters it comes down, but we need to bring it down to make it look right. The problem is when we push this down, it expands out the sides. This line goes this way, and it corresponds with what's over here. Now, you're probably saying, well, what about the hinges? Expand out the hinges. The hinges I already expanded out, and if I basically loosen one of those things, it'll be up like this. It's already expanded out immeasurably, or as far as I can with the hinges. And that's a thing that's, I hate doing that because it just puts more and more stress on it, but, you're trying to make this thing look correct. But let's first, I'll show you what I'm going to use to get this to sit down to be equal to that, so it actually looks decent. First thing we have to do is set the height on the side. This is where we're going to be setting it because we want it on exactly this height for the, for this cowling, for this, for the hood right here. So there's two 13 millimeter nuts inside here, 8x125 pitch, basically studs inside there, that they glued inside there. So what you have to do is just bring it up. Don't reap the living snot out of it, but just snug. Then you have to go over to the other side and make that one work. We have both the sides absolutely set on height, on basically where the cowling is, where it meets and where it goes down. Now, if you take a look at the center cowling right here, it is a good 3-4 mils up, and I want it to be equal with this. And what happens is when you push this thing down, because it's flopping around, you push this thing down, I want to do a couple of things. First thing, I need to have a stabilizing bar in this, because this is, when they did the double skin on the fiberglass for the hood, they did not come up this far. So this is only single skin. It's really, it's lightweight, light duty, And we gotta, we're doing a couple things with this. First is we need, first design parameter, we need to get this thing to come down so it actually looks like it was built for the car. That's what we want, because we want it to match. If it's up like that, it flops around, it's like, oh, yep, that's a kit car, But we need to bring this down to have, so it's fully set with the cowling at this distance. That's kind of a big thing. Second, we also, part of it of putting a brace inside here to lowering this is to make it stop from flopping around. So we're doing actually 3 things. We're lowering the height, we're stiffening up the actual structure, and take a look at this picture right here, And now that you're back, because I'm not sure how to over voice it, but the Sport Quattro had their headlight washers in the actual hood, and just like just like an original, but they placed them right here. So I want to use a brace that also encompasses the washer fluid, base, pretty much. Hold on, let me run with this. Trust me, it's not that bad. Here, let's. I'll show you what I'm going to use and how we're going to do it. This is what we're going to use to strengthen the hood and to lower the height of the hood. It's all it is a piece of 1/2-inch aluminum tubing. Use these for oil lines and fuel lines or whatever inside the cabin. Just they're away. They can't be underneath the car because of the locks and everything. But because it's pretty, it's not light duty. It's sort of like copper line, but it's you can bend it really nice and it seals really nice. It's, besides doing the two things of stiffening up the hood and lowering the height, it's going to do another thing. See this? This is going to be the system that we use for cleaning the windshield washer jets and tubing. This is going to act as a conduit for it. It's going to go in there like this, and it's going to hold all the tubing up inside, so it doesn't, flop down and look like hell. So I thought, you know what, that's kind of a good idea, but we'll see if it works. We don't know. I don't know if it's going to work, but it's a good idea. At least, try. But let me first clean that, and I'm going to clean this and bend this out to make it flat to the point where it's, it's going to lower the hood, and I'll clamp it and weld that, or JB weld it to the hood, and we will get on to doing the next thing, which are the fenders. Really easy. But we still have kinks inside here. What I'm going to do is take the push rods like this. You can see the kink is right there. And it's starting to pull out. It's just pushing it down through. It's just pushing out all the dents from the inside. This gives us a starting point. We know it's at least this wide all the way through. All the kinks are pretty much out. I'll clean it with some acetone. And what I want to do is, seeing it's relatively straight, I am going to JB weld the first part in the center, overly, making it concave. That way when it comes up, I can just push. I'm not going to do it now, but I can push this and bend this and conform it to where we want it to be. So let me open up the hood and scratch that, clean this, get the JB weld prepped, and we'll put it right there. And well, we have to wait overnight, so let's just do that now. Now that we're underneath, here's the Cool Wheels hood. As you can take a look, this is their double skin that they did. As you can see, they cut this off. I get they probably meant to have another double skin here, but I'm not sure. It looks like they should have, but they probably screwed up and did something. Don't know. But they have fixed it right here. Take a look over on the left-hand side. As you can see, this is cut at a different angle. So they actually had a second skin to go on here, but they just did not use it. It was probably screwed up. And if we go around the hood, let me show you a little bit more. Take a look right there. They just put dollops. It looks like, I'm not sure if it's panel bond or not, but I would assume it is. Like a Norton Speed Grip. But they didn't do everything inside it, so you can expect that. I think I'm going to have to redo all the panel bond or put fiberglass on here to make it a little bit stiffer, because I don't think this is actually going to work in the long run. Don't know, but that's what you get when you buy a cheap hood, But let's get on to working on to the center section to bring this down so it actually matches. Now that we have the pipe clamp, looks pretty good. I mean, it's kind of negligible on how much or how down it is, but looking at it like this, I think that's where I'm gonna run with it. That's as good as I'm gonna get. I'll JB weld that and we will come back after that's dry. Next day. Let's see if it worked. I actually, right before I was walking out of the shop letting this thing dry, I took a drilling hammer. It's the heaviest hammer, not the heaviest, but the heaviest small hammer I have. I stuck it there, and the only reason why I did that is for spring back. You know, because whenever you take a piece of metal and you bend it and you think it's going to be here, but it springs back just a little bit and stops, that was my, thought process on that. Let's see if it worked. Let's pull the hammer off and we'll lift up the hood, pull the clamps off, put it back down. We'll see what we got. Moment of truth. Wow, right there. Look at that. This line is a little flat then curves down, but right there. It's pretty close. All right, now let's start fitting the fenders. Now, when we're fitting the fenders, we have to make sure the hood is pretty much square. Running into a slight problem. Let's look at this. This is the side, this is the driver's side, and I have this level flat up against this straight line right here on the lower part of the windshield frame. And if you look at it like that, it's, inch and a half, out down at the end, maybe almost 2 inches. Let's go take a look over here. Let me move the car over and I'll show you how far off it is over there. Looking at the same part of the windshield frame, or lower windshield frame, putting that on exactly right there. And if you can tell, it's about a ½ inch down here that's out. We're also running into a bigger problem trying to make sure this part of the hood goes this way. Let me pull back over. If you can see, this is a gap. This is probably, a ½ inch right here. Probably seeing how the hood's a little bit wavy, the absolute lowest gap here, right now as it's set, it's probably about a ½ inch. That's about absolute minimum. Let's go over look on the other side. Here's the gap on the passenger side. That's a good, almost a ½ inch at its lowest point, maybe 3/8 or even, what can I say, 7/16, which is 7/16. It's 11 millimeters. But we can't force this thing any way over to make the gap square. So what I got to do is I got to make this gap right here from left to right square and run it off the indentations on here where the top of the hood or the lines on the hood. So I'm going to pull this one back just a teeny bit to lessen the gap over there, and let's see how it looks. I pulled this in as far as I could. And to check the gap, just use your caliper like this. Well, this says 10 mil here. And this says 6 or 7 mil there, right here. I'll go, I think this is still too wide. Let me go over there and check the other side. And if it's all set, we'll take a look at the front and see if it looks semi-square. We're over here on the driver's side, on the left side. I took the measurement from right here because you can see this is the lowest point. See, I did the lowest point over there and the lowest point here, and the caliper will not fit in. That is back as far as I can do it, so I need to bring this one forward to make the gap even. This is just one thing you have to do, and it's, here's what it is. Here's the gap, runs down here. This thing looks pretty lined up. This is fairly lined up. The height is the main concern right now, and the gap right here. Let's take a look at the front of the car and see if it actually looks lined up. Then we can start fitting the fenders. We're not lining up to this because it just won't do it, but let's pull that around. Take a look. It goes in a little bit. Let's see if the other side equals. Taking a look at the other side, I set up the straight edge and it actually comes inward, so it looks pretty equal. We're setting the fenders to this. We have to, you know, if you take a look at this, the fender curves in, unlike the stock hoods. So you're looking at, 9-10 mil of deviation down the bottom. And I'll show you the other side. The other side on this, and you're looking at pretty much the same thing, but a little worse, probably about 11 mil on this. That is what you're going to run into with any type of fiberglass body part. So we have to fit the fenders to make everything work. We have to use, the hood is, the gap is set on the hood, and we have to fit the fenders now to A, match the hood, and B, match the lines off the doors. So let's go, actually we'll start on the passenger side, because I think that one's the worst. And we will look at everything and how I'm going to do that. Slide it in here. And you see, it actually, you think it fits really well. There's a couple things with this fender, as I was saying. Now, we have to sit there and look at how the front fender fits the hood in the front, and how it fits the gap back here underneath the windscreen frame. So let's let me grab my rule. Let me show. Here is where the fender fits, and if it fits right onto the frame, you take a look. If you made it up to this part of the hood right here, this thing is in by about 3 or 4 mil. The fender curves inward. We have to follow one thing. I'm following the hood line. So I want to put this where the hood line actually goes. This is where it goes. It'll indent here like it's like it's on the rally cars, you know, like an Quattro. It's not meant for this hood. But we have that. This will follow the line all the way to here and round. This can always be built up. That's no problem. Let's look at what the A-pillar is. The front is aligned with the hood, basically to continue the curvature of the hood. What are we looking at back here? Well, if we push this in like this, we have a gap here. Not where this line is. This is where the paint line is. But this line we have to fill. This gap, it's about 1 centimeter, pretty much. Over here, as you can see, this thing was cut to the point where there's a little, it was just cut kind of haphazardly, and it was on both of them. Also, with this thing flush here, we have a huge gap. You know, another almost full centimeter. So in order for this thing to fit, we have to bring the fender out like that to match right here. And if we sit there and go down, and where it's going to be, like this, the front end lifts about 1 centimeter. So let me show you that. That'll pretty much give you the gap right there. We can easily raise the hood because we have plenty of bump stops right there. And it's fitting right this. But the problem is we got a ton of gap, and I don't want to use fender washers. What am I going to use? You see this line, how this top goes up like this? Well, on the, how can I put this? I'm making these non-removable fenders. It's just, people are going to say, well, Audi made them removable. Well, guess what? This is, I mean, how often do you remove a front fender on an Quattro? Plus, if you look at all of this, this is just a splat shield right here. This is all going to be gone. I got to tailor it to make this. I'm going to get rid of all of this, get rid of all this muck right here, but I'm also going to cut this channel right off and put a steel plate on here so I can adjust it to exactly where I want it, and I'm going to weld the steel plate. Then, after I weld the steel plate on, when I decide that, you know, finally put the fenders on, because I have to do the inner shields and all that stuff to mate everything up, it just goes on, pop rivet in with panel bond, and it's just like the rear quarters. It's going to stay there forever. You know, it's just, that's the only way I can see actually making it, because that way, when I have the metal on, you know, on the inside of this, it's straight up and down. I can adjust it, grind it, so I can make it exactly perfect. It's not going to go anywhere. This whole section will be extremely rigid. Then I can put a plate inside there and force in the bottom. You know, I might have to cut the bottom. I don't know yet. It's kind of looking like I might have to, but I'm not going to do it till the very end, but I need to fit this portion here on this. It's going to have to be up, and I don't want to put like 5 different spaces underneath there. That's pretty much the way to go. And if we go like this, and also, these things, they rock back and forth because of, the unevenness of either this or unevenness, I'd say unevenness of this. That's just the way it is. So what do I gotta do? Well, get on my masking gloves and cut this taco right off. And then we're going to take some cardboard and make a template and make these, because I'm making them for the other ones too. That's just what's going to happen. Then I got to clean up all this, and now you know why I've been kind of putting this one off, because I hate cutting fiberglass, and I hate freaking getting rid of all this stuff too. So, but it's something we have to do. All right, well, no better time to do it than let's just do it. What we got to do now is make a template for the piece of steel that goes in. Just took this off a cardboard box. What I want to do mainly is put this here. I want to get this arc right here. So when I put the template up inside there, it conforms to this ridge, and then it'll sit in really nice. And I have to bend over the edges and make it, like this, so it just rests on it, so it's not a sharp, cut into the fiberglass. I just, pretty much as far as I can make it. That's where I'm going to do it, because it is an art on these fenders. You can see it conforms really well to the ridge all the way down through. We might not have this length of steel for the side, but it's going to be, at least we have it. We can always cut it away instead of adding some. So this is pretty much the distance I'm going to make. Let me go grab some steel. I'll show you more of our cabinet material that we're going to use to make this thing work. More recycled steel. more 1970s office furniture. This was a drawer from a desk that you put plans on. Well, it's going to be fairly simple to do. The metal is fairly tough, but we don't need very much of it. How much are we going to use? Well, the first thing is, here's this ridge up, here's this ridge up. Like that. If this is our base, we're going to want at least 1 inch, because we're going to be chopping it off or doing whatever. See, this does not have to be exact. This is roughly what we need. An extra inch beyond this is a lot of material, So let me just cut this, and that'll give us our template. Then we can start cutting the metal here. Stick it on the fender, see how it works. That fits pretty well right there. I mean, it is a little bit long, which is fine. I can cut some more off. Next thing I gotta do is I gotta drill a hole here and a hole here, put a really small nut and bolt in it. That way we can start, trimming it out and figuring out how we're gonna set the thing on the car. So let me just go grab my drill, and we'll just pop that up. This is what I'm trying to do. You see this line right here? This is what I'm trying to mate up with, and this line right here. This and down there I'm not worried about yet, but this right here and this right here is the line that I'm trying to make sure this is what we're going to, you know, have as our main eye contact, basically, because everybody's going to look at this line, and this one should follow in, but if you look at it, it's not going in the line, and I'll show you the reason why. Take a look at this. This is pretty much flat, is what it is. You know, this is where everything, you know, where a standard Fender mounts to. If you take a look at this Fender, it's bowed, and right here is what preventing me from making it snug in. And I'm sitting there going, I think I'm going to have to cut this bridge off, or it, you know, I haven't really made up my mind yet, but this is a pretty big thing. If I have to do it, I have to do it. But this is really, really big. When you're dealing with, you know, 3 to 4 millimeters of where you want the gap to be, you have almost 5 to 8 millimeters here of bow, and that's, to me, it's pretty bad. I got to think about here in just a second. We'll come back in just a second, but I gotta, you know, which way am I gonna go with this? I don't know. I could slice it and pull it back, or if I just cut it, I'm gonna have to put a piece of metal inside here to make everything go. And I think that's probably the way it's gonna have to go. Unfortunately, but it's just what you're gonna have to do to make these things fit right. There's nothing much I can do. And you can already see it's already cracked right here at this point from trying to get it, you know, all squared away. Not fun, not fun. All right, we'll come back here in just a second. Let me get my thinking cap. I didn't expect to do this. This, you know, I kind of knew I was going to have to do a couple of months ago, and I already set up in mind, but I hadn't figured out on this one yet. But let's hold on. Let me come back here in just a second. Well, you're probably wondering what I was thinking about, you know, because this is all kind of bowed around. Well, one thing I learned from trying to find an old video, because it looks like one of my old videos I put up is completely corrupted, which I actually downloaded a corrupted file, so it won't play correctly. And I was watching it, and I'm trying to make it again. And what it was why was I having such a hard time fitting this Fender? You know, initially, I'm sitting there going, this is just terrible. Well, it comes to find out, this Fender is a half inch shorter than the other Fender. Then I forgot all about it. It's just like, all right, hey, good job, guys. So, I don't need to cut this. Now, what I do need to do is to fit it. And here's the metal plate right here. Remember this. Here is the support. Basically, it's a crash support for the front, which they welded on. The thing is, I can take a set of vice grips, use that metal plate, and clamp onto this and adjust it all up. Which is kind of interesting, because this way I can set all the body lines. This line, and this line, and this line. Set that all completely up, and then I can mark it where I can mark it in there, reset it up and tack it, and make sure everything's all set. So what I want to do, that I was looking at, is I want to put the base fender pretty much where I want it, roughly. Yeah, that's not, it's there, I can still move it. And what I need to do is to set the bottom, which will set up this. I mean, this lines up right there, this lines up pretty much, it doesn't, this thing goes up, as you can see, but this basic line goes to here. And this, another thing, it goes upwards, but actually if you take a look from the base line to here, it's okay. So let's first, I'm going to set the height here with my handy dandy pine board. We have to make a space here because I bent this metal that's going to be protecting this down just so to give me more room for adjustment. You can also look here. I can't really use the gaps of the fenders. It's really difficult because if you take a look at this, let's see if I can get my hand out of there. This is straight line. If you put here to here, right there, it's not. It's actually probably better easy to see here. See, it curves up and down like this. Not by much, a millimeter or so, but you can't do an equalized gap all the way around unless I put this on and start filing it to make the gap right, which I probably will do. But the main goal is we have this right here for this, so we need to bring it up a little bit more. See, this gives us this line right here. If you can see this fender line, it comes right here, like this. If I put it right here on the bottom part, it should come around, but this is curved upwards. So you can't use this. You have to use this actual line and basically transpose all the way down. That's what my goal is. Same thing up here. Well, I have to move this up. Seeing how we have these lines all equal, these three lines down here, and pretty much this one is pretty much set. What I want to do is I want to bolt in that fender and adjust it to the point with washers underneath to make sure it's sitting exactly where I want it to sit and how far it is out from the door to give me clearance from opening up the door and back and forth again. Then I'm going to push this, I'm going to see if I can push this down to meet this area. You know, I have a real tough, I really don't know if it's going to work, but you know, let's give it a shot. Let me go get the drill that out, and put some bolts in there and see how we can, see if we can make this work. What I'm doing is just making sure I'm not going to change the height, and I marked right here, right here are the bolt holes. I'm going to make them a little larger so I can move them in and out just to guarantee my fitment, but it looks like it'll be roughly right there for that one. So let me just go grab the drill, do that, and then we can fit this thing up. Here's the vice grip. This is where it's clamped to. Those are now in. Let's go check the alignment. Well, tightening up the internal portion on the bottom one, I took off the top one. And I think, let's see if it opens. Let's see if the door opens without hitting it. See, it clears. That's what I need. And I don't want this to hit. This is actually going to be out a little bit more like that because of this metal plate that's going to be down here, so it'll be a little bit easier. I think I'm going to, you know what, I'm just going to put another plate on the other side, and I'm going to put on the other one, the other fender, get that fit in. We'll make sure the hood is adjusted, and then we'll do tweaks both the sides, then weld in the plates. That's the only way I can see doing it. And then we'll start working on the front bumpers and getting all that stuff squared away. You know, I should have just done this. I should have just cut the thing off and not made a template, or I shouldn't have wasted my time. think that's lined up really well. If we push this in, take a look right here. If I pull this out, it actually sucks it in. So I might, when I do the onion wells, which is going to be on the rotisserie, because I'm not going to do it on my back, I think that's where it's going to have to be. Because I'm going to, if I can push it out and actually fit the fender with the inner protective wells. I think that's pretty much set. Looks like we got to start going to the front. Let's go to the front and start doing the front bumper and the grill and lights and set the hood. You know, that's what we have to do, because that's the thing is, we have to set everything at one time before we weld or do anything. That's what we got to do. But let me spin this around, give this a quick sweep, and we can start on the bumper. We have to start fitting the front of the Sport. What do we have to do? Well, what have we gotten done? Well, we have the fender lines, you know, the ridges of the flares, you know, this portion right here. It's all lined up at the door. You know, that's fantastic. Now we got to line up the front. What we have to do first is find the midpoint of the car, pretty much. I'm going to go off the front of the hood because we have the gap set in the back, and this is where everybody's going to be looking at, is at the front. So they're going to see, they want the vents on the bumper to basically be equidistant, you know, because if it's askew, you're going to instantly tell, oh, is that right? You know? But what we first have to do, and let me measure it out and make a mark, and I'm going to do the midpoint of the hood, then the midpoint of the bumper, then set it on here. That way, I mean, I'm just going to take the grill and just give it a quick look. Okay, it's, you know, it's pretty much for the height. The grill we can muck about with a little bit, but let's first set the center point of the hood so we can set the center point of the bumper and put it on so we can put the fenders in. I have here, if it's right to the very edge, 50 and, looks like 50 and a half. So that's pretty easy. It's 25 and a quarter. So we'll stay right there. 25 and a quarter. Right there. 5 inches up from the very tip. 5 inches up. What do we have? We have 51 and an eighth. So 25 and a half, 25 and 9/16. So that's a half of an eighth is a 16th. So we have to get 25 and 9/16. There's our midway point, pretty close. It's within a 16th, I would say, or within like a mil. Let's figure out what this is. 14 and 3/4. So 7 3/8. This will get us pretty close. I think that's as close as I can get. This is completely level, right here, and right here, and right here. Now let me figure out how I'm going to fit the fenders. Here's the driver's side, on the left-hand side, and it's actually, you know, pretty close, just having it sit there. Let's go look at the other side. Here's the passenger side. This is a huge amount of difference. The other side, I can pull out just a little bit. This thing, I don't want to pull out much more than that, just because it starts to really stress on the top here. I think we're just going to have to fit this to these and the way they're sitting on the car. Unfortunately, it's going to be a couple of millimeters off, so I mean, if I push it back that way, it's going to be probably 1/4 of an inch, because that way it'll be enough, but it's like this. Now we can do this. It still bows out, which I'm like annoyed, but you know, it is what it is. I'm gonna probably have to do some more trimming on it. I only did some rudimentary trimming before, but this way it'll be all set. I might have, you know, I'm not really sure how I'm gonna do it, but I just need to set the height. Oh, more things, but let's build the bottoms of these fenders so we can get them absolutely secure. As a guesstimation goes, what I did was I put it with both of those at rest, about a 1/4 inch. They both have to move a 1/4 inch out. I think I'm going to move them a 1/4 inch out and bend those plates that I have affixed to the bottom of the fenders so they're relatively straight. That way I'll tack that plate in and we'll start working on the inner plates for that fender right there to make sure the bumper's fully lined up. It's about the best I can do at this point. Let's see. Let me grab the welder and let me do that. There's this plate. It's rough, you know, but let's put the bumper back on. We'll have to fit it for the front, and then we can go on to fitting stuff for the bumper. As I previously did, I marked the center, or best I could, center of the front bumper, center of the hood, and I also just marked, the best I could, the center of the grille. Let's see on the right side, I mean the left side of the car seems to be the worst, my right side, but it seems to be the worst. Now, this is pretty much centered. Let's see. Yep, this is where the grille will sit. This is where the bumper will sit. It's basically centered on the hood line. If you take a look right here, this, if you see the pictures, the Sport Quattro fenders do come out a little bit from the bumper. Even though this thing's kind of, you know, not conforming to this, even though the original is, you know, I'm all set with that. Let me go over and do the other side so we can get the fenders at least set and where they're going to be. This is going to be the worst one right now. I thought the other side might be a little iffy, but if you can see this right here, this fender, this is where it's supposed to, I mean, it's supposed to be basically flat, and the way they pull it up, I'm just, let's just say I'm not really Cool Wills' fans right now. The way this thing fits is absolutely fucking disgusting. You know, because it should fit like that, and even then it doesn't fit. This thing just does not fit. God, it looks like shit. This is what you get when you try and make something freaking equal from, you know, when they send you some freaking garbage. You know, nothing like bitching. I just have to make it work. It seems like the person who built this Fender was on holiday. Because the thing has to come out, go up like that, you know. This was centered, but this is centered. This is just awful. I don't know what I'm going to do. This Fender is so horrible. Let's take an intermission. I'm just going to just chop it up. This piece of junk. This is what you guys are going to run into. A few minutes later. Alright, after thinking on a command decision, alright, seeing how this is set, I am going to make this match up to this. When I do the final fit on the bottom, I am going to cut this and just, I'm going to have to slice it and just put it back in. It's going to have to relieve all the stress. That's the way it is. So I'm just going to make this top piece that's bolted in fit this. And then I will cut and bring this all in at a later date. Not right. I want to get the bottom piece on it, but I have to cut this all up in order for it to fold back in. That's the only way I can see about doing it. So, I mean, if I can get it, you know, right there, it's exact same as the other side. The grill fits nice. This fits nice. It's the only this bottom portion. It's the small things that get me. So let me mark where I'm going to tack this thing in, and I will get this thing welded up or tacked in. And I might cut down here. Let me tack that in first. Let me tack the other side in, and let me figure out what I want to do, because I don't really want to cut right now, but I might have to just to make it look right. Decisions. Alright, let me go grab the welder. Now that's set. Next thing we got to do is build tabs to guarantee the fitment of this bumper. So we have to have a tab. Remove this. A tab welded onto this plate in order for it, so we can screw the bumper in the top. That's basically it. Here it is. After welding that, I bolted it in. This is pretty stationary. I'm about a millimeter off. This is, you know, could go up just about 1 millimeter, but it's more than acceptable for right now. When I do do this, I can always just shim it up, put a washer underneath there, pull it up that 1 millimeter, which is fine. But it looks pretty decent the way it is right now. Let's go over to the passenger side. Here we are on the passenger side, or the right-hand side of the car. As you can see, I'm going to have to cut this and bend this in. This is going deep or inset into the car where it should be absolutely straight like that. This is where it should be, and that's the way it is. So this all has to be cut, ground, whatever you want to call it, sliced, to bring it, to relieve the stress, to bring this thing out, and to bring this thing in to meet this. This, as you can see, is down, you know, there we go, there's this 1 millimeter, and I might have to actually use a file inside here in order to make this grill fit, because this on the other side fits much better. It's, I don't know, I mean, can I say buy left-hand fenders but don't buy right-hand fenders from Cool Wheels? Alright, well, that's beside the point. We have to keep going, and this is what we got to do. We got to fully mount the front bumper. or make the supports for mounting the front bumper. Let's go over to there.